for asking to be on this committee.
Thank you.
All right, the first bill I'm gonna bring up is House Bill 1301. This is the same bill that we passed the House and the Senate last year that the governor vetoed. We're going back with pretty much the same language. We did make a couple of adjustments to it. We added that teacher licensing part will be for 5 years. And instead of the 1 year, we're a CTE instructor that goes through the certified or expert citizens licensing part. Instead of just being 1 year, it will be for 5 years. Our school districts have asked for that. And that's basically the only change to the bill other than the way we did it last year, with the exception of where we had the work keys would count as a 23 on the ACT. We just put in the language this year that the work keys would count towards the accountability model. We left out that number, that specific number, but our understanding is it will be of equal value. And that's an explanation of the bill. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Seeing no questions, I move title sufficient to pass, committee sub. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. While we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and skip down to House Bill 539. This is an identical bill to the one I just explained. We will have two versions of the same bill just to move forward while we work it through the process. And that's an explanation of the bill, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Any questions? Seeing none, I move title sufficient to pass, committee sub. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Was there a no? Motion carries. All right, we'll go to the top of the list now. House Bill number 470. This is the MDA Job Training Grant Fund, and it repeals and transfers money into the North. We're creating a North Mississippi Workforce Development Training Fund and for us to be able to move money from one place to another place, we have to have a place to do that. There is some funds at MDA that's been sitting there for a long period of time that was designated for North Mississippi, and that's the reason for developing this fund. If we're able to put that money into this fund, we can disperse it throughout the state. And that's an explanation of the bill, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So you said dispersed throughout the state. So I wanted to clarify that fund is not strictly for North Mississippi, it is for statewide?
It will be for statewide, but the majority of the money, it will be very similar to the BP money, the way it was split when with the Gulf Coast getting, the overwhelmingly majority of it. This money was designated for North Mississippi in the Toyota Training Fund. So the majority of that money will be spent in North Mississippi, probably somewhere like which it's not set that we're even going to get any money, but what we're looking at is probably like a 75-25 split.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions? Move title sufficient to pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to skip House Bill 536. We'll do it last. On the Office of Workforce Development, Give me just a second. We're moving forth with some legislation. Last year, when we passed Senate Bill 2564, we designated that the speaker would have three recommendations to the governor, and he would appoint those two of those members to the SWIB board and to the executive committee. Those positions have not been filled by the governor, so we're giving those appointments now to the lieutenant governor instead of the governor. And that's an explanation of the bill. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Any questions? Seeing no questions, I move title sufficient do pass. Committee sub. Title sufficient do pass, committee sub. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to the construction management risk, House Bill 1253. And I'll explain the bill. This bill deals with construction projects in Mississippi that are over $25 million. It is the abbreviation for it is CMAR, and it has to have the approval of the public agency to pre-qualified contractors and subcontractors. And what they're trying to do is, if there's a really large project in the state, like $25 million, it does go through the bid process, but they're going to ask people or set regulations that you've had to do a job of that size or close to that job before you can bid on it. Like, I'll just try to give you an example. If it's, say, building a new hospital and an electrical company that wants to bid on that as a subcontractor, and they've got 5 employees, you know they can't complete the job. And it's causing problems in the state when you automatically, somebody gets the lowest bid and then they can't perform the work. It shuts the project down, or it causes a lot of cost overruns. This isn't an attempt for projects over $25 million that those people have had to do that type of work. They've got the number of employees to complete the work, and they've got the experience and the expertise to do it. It still has to go through the normal bid process, just like anything else. It's just a list of qualifiers that they have to meet before they're allowed to bid. And that's an explanation of the bill. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Representative Kruder, so you're saying that, what are those qualifications again? Is there a list of qualifications already?
There are. The pre-qualifications will consider size of the project, size of the companies, the required scope, and then the background of the company, if they've had any defaults, if they've had bad results in the past. And all of my understanding is all of the trade associations supports this, along with most of this will be like at the universities and IHL, and they agree with this legislation. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move title sufficient do pass, committee sub. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We'll go down to House Bill 1263, and this is the occupational licensing. Ladies and gentlemen, all this bill does is if a person moves to Mississippi and they've had an occupational license from another state for 1 year or more, that we will recognize that in the state of Mississippi, as long as there's no outstanding problems we will recognize that license, and that's pretty much an explanation of the bill. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I believe you said House Bill 1263 on the agenda. It says 1264. I'm just verifying.
Yeah, the agenda changed. 1263 and 1264 are identical bills. They're the exact same language. We just chose to go with House Bill 1263 for a senior member that two people drafted the same legislation.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes. Move title sufficient, do pass. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right, this next bill it's going to take a little while to explain. It is let me find it. House Bill 536. And this comes to us actually from the Department of Employment Security Commission. And it's revising a lot of things they do. Mainly, it's mostly terminology, but it does address some issues that they had dealing with the COVID, and they have asked for this legislation. And I'll go through it to the best of my ability. And the first section deals with the definition of what wages mean, and that includes voluntary payments from employers from whatever source and for whatever reason. And that's in lieu of the employees' regular wages. It fixes a loophole where if an employer is still paying an employee during COVID, if they still pay that employee just like he's working, even though he's not working, he cannot draw unemployment if the employer is still paying him. And then if it's less than what he is making, they can pay that difference. So it clears up some language for him there. It also addresses administrative leave. If you're on a paid administrative leave, you cannot draw unemployment benefits at the same time if you're still receiving your pay. The next section, it amends code 871-5-365. And it's deemed that if an employer incorrect or insufficient an assessment, it allows the MDS director to have somebody to make that determination at their department. The next section is if there's some large sums that some employers and employees owe the state of Mississippi, and right now there's no discretion at the MDS, they have to take the maximum amount. This would allow them to negotiate to try to collect some of the money if they know they'll never be able to collect all of the money. And it's still subject to only to federal laws and regulations. It changes the wording. In current law, it says the Department of Treasury, because that's what the feds recognize it as. Mississippi does not have a Department of Treasury. We're changing that to Department of Revenue, which is what the state of Mississippi has. It just clarifies and brings us in with some language that they need. The next section is if a company is using the system to hire what we call subcontractors instead of employees, if they're being used as a regular hourly employee, you cannot count them as a subcontractor. If you're telling them to be at work at 7 o'clock every morning to take break and to do specific tasks, that will be considered as an employee and not as a subcontractor. And it just places some fines that if a company is doing that it's a 2% increase in their tax rate on their unemployment. Basically, that's an explanation of the bill, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Any questions? Seeing none, I'm.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, yes,
this is Representative Denton.
yes.
On that first section that you explained, I just want to get a clear understanding now. So what we're basically saying is that we're trying to stop people from double dipping. Is that what we're trying to do?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Any other questions? I move title sufficient do pass. Committee sub. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. The motion carries. I'm not anticipating, I think that includes all of them. I'm not anticipating having another meeting. It is possible. There's a lot of bills still out there, but at this time, I'm not anticipating having another meeting until this goes on the floor. If you do have any issues or concerns, I'm here and I'm willing to talk to you and help you any way that I can. And I thank everybody for attending, and I make the motion to rise and report.
Mr. Chairman, did you mean to skip House Bill 850?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry. That was on the old agenda. It wasn't on the new agenda.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you for asking. Rise and report.
So moved.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
And thank y'all for being here.